All right, welcome, guys. We are live here on this Sunday. Awesome. So, I have done quite a few things behind the scenes, guys. You'll have to let me know if you guys see the writing on the screen. This is something new that I'm trying. I'm also going to try to pull it up here and go into the live stream myself. And let me know if everything looks good, guys. I've recalibrated my whole setting, how the camera sits. Whole new setup this weekend. We used the same software as last week, so we are playing with some new things. I'm just going in now. I want to see how this looks. Okay. Quiet that down. Awesome. I like the way it looks, guys. I just did this now. All right, sound is good from Jay. Good to have you in here, Jay. And yeah, I got it playing on my own device, so I'm actually looking at it on screen just to see how the writing is, make sure it's readable so you guys understand. I know that I wanted to add some of the text down below so I don't have to keep repeating the topic. Also, this way I'm not having to push people to like and subscribe so much. I really do want to try to get the content flowing a little bit better. That way when we get started on the project, we just get started and we don't have to stop and try to get the likes up and stuff like that. I can just comment to the writing down below. So that's really what I'm looking at for the future here, guys. Is just to kind of get this whole process flowing. Jay, let me know, is this showing up as a full screen setup for you? Is it showing full on your device? I know there's a little bit of lag. I'm going to work on that lag for the future, but biggest thing is I want to make sure I'm not getting any errors while streaming. Last week I was getting errors and I did not have the resolution set up right. So you guys were seeing me and there was a bunch of black spots on the screen. Now it's full screen on a cell phone. Full screen. Awesome, awesome, awesome. So you guys might have noticed this past week I didn't put out any reels. And my reason for that is I was extremely busy setting all this stuff up behind the scenes, trying to get the writing into place, get all that laid out, and I was trying to fix the resolution so that you guys had a much better picture for this week. Last week's stream, I did not like the picture. It was really small. We had the right resolution, but it was laid out in a weird way. So I had to reset my camera and do a bunch of stuff behind the scenes. Glad I got this done because I do like the way it looks. Like I said, I'm playing it on my own device here, just so I can kind of keep an eye on things. Got 18 of you guys in here. Make sure you guys hit the like button. If you guys got any questions, chat them in down below, and my mods will make sure that I get it read on screen. I don't ask for super chats. If you guys do, I highlight the super chat. I say your name, all of that. So I do highlight you if you super chat, and it is greatly appreciated. We're trying to build this channel this year, so anything we can do to help build that is what we're aiming for. Also, we do have a members only area here on YouTube. So you guys can go there. There's different packages, so it'll give you different things. As we develop the members only area, we're going to work on getting a merch store, so you'll get discounts depending on what level you are at in that process. And I'll work with those once we get those going so that you guys have much better access. So, got one in here from Jay. I tried to look on Carfax for a 5th gen Ram without e-torque. I couldn't find one without it. What should I do? Okay, here's what's going on with the e-torques. Basically, e-torque started to come in 2019. So anything from 2019 all the way up to 2025 is going to be mostly e-torque. You can find a few scattered ones. If you look on Car Gurus, you might be able to find one or two, but they're very rare. Not a lot of them go up for sale because people are not a fan of the e-torque. I got into that a little bit with the news cycle. And I got some stuff to report on that with the news at the end of the show today. So when we get into news, I'm going to talk about them. I'm going to talk about what they've got going. Basically, they brought in the old CEO of Dodge, Ram, Jeep, and Chrysler. He was part of the Fiat brand, and he was the CEO at the time. They have, at Stellantis, they have recently fired their CEO and brought back the old CEO from Fiat. So we'll see if they bring back a lot of stuff. I got a bunch of stuff in the news cycle to report on that. But if you are looking to buy a new one, I would wait a year. In fact, I would wait probably a year and a half. I'm never a fan of buying first year stuff just because of the glitches and they need to work the bugs out. So I would be on the side of waiting a little bit longer, but 2026, like I said, in the news cycle, I got a lot coming up for that. So, all right. It's good to have you guys in here today. If there's any other mods other than Jay, make sure you guys chat in down below. But thank you guys for all the support. All the likes and subscribes have really helped. We are growing and I want to continue the growth. I'm working on a whole bunch of stuff to make the streams better, guys. So there's been some bumps and some hiccups trying to get everything set up. But I think we got a really good setup now. I'm able to stream in 4K. I'm able to do a bunch of different stuff that I wasn't able to do before. I do want to get to where I can screen share the news. So that is something I do want to work on for the future. That being said, what is today's topic? Today's topic is belt tensioners and pulleys. Why does this come up so often when I'm dealing with customer repairs? It's because these parts are made very cheap. So oftentimes they don't last even up to 75,000 miles. And you're already putting idler pulleys in, you're already putting belt tensioners in, and if you didn't catch it in time, you're putting serpentine belts on. Oftentimes, whenever a vehicle is ran for an extended period of time, at least 50,000 miles, I don't reuse belts. The reason why is the belts wear out. Most people think, well, it doesn't look cracked. That is an old myth and an old way of checking belts. The new way, let me grab one. So the new way to check belts is on the groove. This one here is the alternator belt. This is basically the water pump alternator, stuff like that, AC. So the new way to check belts, guys, is you want to look at these grooves right here. If these grooves are really spread apart, that means the belt is starting to wear out. They actually make a belt inspection tool for this. If you don't know, you can get these on Amazon. You can get these probably at any parts store. And what they do is they allow you to stick that belt tool in between the grooves. And if you can move that tool back and forth on the belt's wore out. Oftentimes belts are usually a 50 to 100,000 mile belt. At that point, you're putting a new belt on regardless. The other way to check is just to see kind of what the material shape is like. Sometimes these do crack even though they're not supposed to. They do crack, they do fray. Oftentimes if they start to fray, you'll see them fraying out here on the outside, especially if the pulleys are not lined up. So if the pulleys are not lined up and they're offset just a bit, what can happen is it'll start to chew the belt and you'll start seeing it on the sides. It'll start grinding. And that's the issue we have on this Audi. What's going on with it is the belt is moving off to the side of the tensioner, almost to where it wants to pop around the tensioner. If that happens, we're going to wreck a lot of stuff. This is a supercharged engine, so there's a supercharger belt and a drive belt, meaning that we need to service both of these systems. Now, in order to do all that, we do need some specialty tools, guys. Audis are notorious for needing specialty stuff. They don't just come ready to rock and roll. Thank you guys for the likes. We're over 50% like. I like to keep that at least at 50% while we're streaming. It kind of helps get the content out, and we help to push this more as we grow this channel and help build merch stores and all this other stuff. We got a lot coming in the next year. And I got some news on the motor stuff. actually, I'll get into that in just a little bit. Let's talk about the tools. So Audi requires you to have a special tool. This might look like a torque bit, but I'll bring it in closer for you guys. This is not a torque. This is what they call a triple square. So you need these to work on Audis. Very specific, very brand to what these are. Now, you run into these on luxury cars. You run into this on stuff that's more high end. The reason they do stuff like this is to keep the average person from working on a car. Unfortunately, over time, people make tools. This is why, if you really do want to own a luxury car, I tell you to wait until the tools are available and the parts. The reason I say parts, guys, champagne bubbles over here, we can't get new struts on an aftermarket source right now. That car is 5 years old. This is all because this is the new body style of a car. They don't want to release the parts, so proprietary technology, meaning they don't want to release what they have. And I've called this out on many, many different brands. Many. And you guys will see me call them out in the future too, because they love doing this stuff. I called out Dodge and Ram when they did it too, especially with the e-torque and with this EV stuff. You can't work on it. There's no possible way to work on EVs unless you have a hoist in your garage and you have the special tools to drop the battery down. You can do small things, but you have to know how to discharge the system. And if you don't know how to discharge the system, you're going to get hurt. So this is some of the reason why some of the things that we talk about over here is to kind of help set this up a little bit. Check out here, see how this is looking. Okay, awesome. I like that this is full screen. I like that it's easy to read and that you guys got the video title down below here. I know it's a little hard to see if you guys have your chat going, so it might be blended out by the chat, but there's nothing I can really do about that part of it, because if I try to move this up, I'm going to create a huge black spot at the bottom. I guess I could try to play around with that a little bit for you guys, but I do like the setup now. Okay, let's talk about this triple square. Here's what the triple square looks like. I get my face out of there so it focuses on the tool. Come on, focus. Oh gosh. All right. You guys can see this design here. This is a triple square. So what this does is allows us to go on to the bolts that are in this car. I needed to show you guys this because this is a key part of doing this repair. There are a few of these. There's also some torque bits. Let me grab those. All right, so one of the torque bits that we have that we're using is a T30. This T30 is used to hold coolant lines that we need to take out of the way. Those coolant lines have to come out of the way for us to access the tensioner. Not only the tensioner for the main drive belt, but it's going to make it easier for us to access the belt tensioner for the supercharger. We can get around it without it, but it's easier if we move it out of the way. Let's go ahead and move over to the car and we'll get started on this. So the nice thing about my new setup is I can move you guys in a little bit closer. And once I've moved everything closer, I can drop you guys right in the engine bay. So, trying to set up a good spot here for the camera for you guys. Okay. So got you guys set up. Make sure it's centered for you guys before I finish. gotta work on the shakiness for you guys. I can tell that that's somewhat of an issue. Okay, moved you guys down so you guys are see more without the chat being in the way. All right. All right, so here's what we've got. We're about to get ready. The first thing we want to do is take these coolant lines loose. There are rubber hoses on them, so there is some flexibility to where they'll move out of the way. There's also two of these torque bits down below. We need to take those two off because there's another rubber hose on the bottom that goes over towards the radiator. So this whole system will move out of the way to give us access to this tensioner right back here that you guys are having trouble seeing. You're seeing my finger poke through. There's a tensioner back here. Over here is where we have some of our other drive accessories. We have our tensioner, idler, and there's another idler behind that. A lot of those are going to be that tool that we talked about, that triple square. So those we're going to need the triple squares for. I'm going to check what I need to move the tensioners. Pretty sure tensioners are going to be a 16 on this car. The one is a 16 for sure. So I am able to actually take the supercharger out without getting those coolant lines loose, but I'm going to start getting some of these out of the way here. Okay, I'm going to go underneath and I'm going to get those two underneath. I don't know if I'll be able to get you guys a good shot of that. I could try to move you guys down below actually. So the goal is we want to take these two off. They're off to the side here. Like I said, we're doing this without disconnecting any coolant lines. Because if we disconnect coolant lines on a car like this, we have to bleed the whole system out. So it's important for us to not disconnect coolant lines if we don't have to. Because there is a bleed out procedure for this car. At some point, if we're going to do the supercharger service on this thing, we will have to disconnect a coolant line. So then we're going to have to go through the coolant line procedures to bleed this car out. And if you don't, what can happen is you'll burn up the head gasket. So, pretty crucial. So I don't know if you guys can see this, but this is what I'm moving out of the way right here. Back up top here. Get you guys repositioned. Okay, so next we're going to go for our tensioner for our supercharger, which is located down here. And we're going to take off this idler pulley. So these two are going to come out. We're going to take this belt off. We do not want to turn that supercharger pulley when we do this. So when we take this apart, we're not going to move this. We also need to remove this cover. This cover comes off just by lifting up. So we just lift up on the cover, and then there's some tabs in the back that if it gives me a problem, I'll grab a flat screwdriver. Just like that, we can take this cover up, set that off to the side. Here is our supercharger. If we are to do the oil change on here, there is a set screw right down through here. And we need to remove this coolant line. That was the coolant line I was talking about. Trying to get you guys in a good spot so you can see what I'm doing without knocking my camera over here. All right. 7 of you guys in here and 4 likes. We're keeping a 50% ratio on that. That is awesome. Thank you guys. Awesome, awesome. We're going to keep rolling. So next we're going to take this tensioner for the supercharger loose. So we go towards the crank to give us some slack. Then we can slide the belt off. And then we're going to release the tensioner. So I'm going to show you guys in just a second. I'll give you guys a close-up. Here is the supercharger belt coming off. So as you guys can see, this belt has been on a while. You guys can see that it's kind of stiff and brittle. It isn't soft. This is all because this belt has seen a fair amount of idle time. As a vehicle idles, the longer it idles, the more these components take stress and wear. Also, heat from inside the engine bay can have an impact on these, just like it does with a rubber hose. So oftentimes these are replaced before 100,000 miles. This one, we're not going to reuse it. It's going to get swapped to a brand new one. Again, we are going to avoid turning this pulley if we can. We do not want to mess with that supercharger pulley. Next, we've got the tensioner loose, and we've got this loose. There is a little bit of play in this. Let me go ahead and let's pop that one off right now. This is the idler pulley for the supercharger. I'm taking my time with these fasteners because, again, this is a triple square, meaning that it's easy to round bolts off. We don't want to be rounding off any bolts when we're working on stuff. What it happens is when you round these off, it takes a lot of time to be able to get the bolt out just so you can continue the repair. I'm using the triple square to unthread it from the block so I can get it in my hand. And I did notice some play in this, guys. So we do have some issue here. Okay. Very long bolts. Almost to the point that it doesn't want to come out. So we run into problems like this from time to time. What you have to do is carefully move it around and see if there's a spot where it slides right out. This is how we get by these problems. So let's take a look at this right now. This is the pulley for the supercharger. When it was on the vehicle, I felt a little bit of wobble. This is enough to throw the belt off so that it's not lining up in the grooves. It can also cause not only the premature wear of the belt, but it can also have an impact on how long this bearing lasts. If there's a lot of wobble in play in this, guys, there's a lot of grease and oil on this. That means they've been trying to grease this up and get by without replacing this. Oftentimes, this is a sign that these are making noise, and they sprayed a little grease in it to make that noise go away. This is what our new one looks like. Very shiny, no grease coming out of the back of the bearing, and this bolt is fixed into this pulley. So you do not want to remove the bolts out of your old pulley. You're going to go ahead and put this on as a one-piece unit, brand new. Don't tamper with this, don't modify this, because you can cause this bearing to get loose. This one does not have that wobble play like the other one did. This is where we were starting to have some problems. It's not the whole picture though, guys. This is only a portion of the picture. So next, we need to take our drive belt off. To get our drive belt, we are going to have to pull this out of the way to access our tensioner down here. And I'm going to try to bring you guys down a little more. That was actually the customer calling. I'm sure he wants to talk about some stuff that we're doing for future stuff. But here is what we have. This, don't pay attention to this. We need to pull this out of the way to access this tensioner right here. This is the tensioner that needs to come out. But we have to take this drive belt out first. Okay, just letting the customer know what was going on here. So we're gonna check our 16 millimeter to see if that fits. But without pulling that coolant line out of the way, we would not have had access to this tensioner. So down here is where our tensioner is. I know it's hard for you guys to see because I don't have a good spot to place my camera. So right here, you guys can see it. Right here, this is where the tensioner is. 16 millimeter, we're gonna put a wrench on this and we're gonna turn this one back towards the crank pulley. Crank pulley is located right here. This is the crank pulley. So this crank pulley is where we were taking this tensioner over here. This one right here, this one. We had to go towards this crank pulley to get the slack in it for the supercharger. We're going to need to do the same on the opposite side though to get that loose. Let me see if I can get you guys set up here in a different spot. Okay. All right. Jay says, Oh, all right, just checking chats, guys. There's no new chats. That one was from Jay from before. So if you guys got any questions, you guys can chat them in down below. We'll read them on screen. My mods will make sure that they get highlighted so that I see them. And we'll keep on going on this project. Okay, so we're going to go towards. We go towards the crank in order to get that tension. Now the new ones come with a pin. They're loaded, meaning that all we'll need to do is release the slack and we can move that stuff quite easily, which is what we want. We don't want to be fighting this process. Okay. Pay attention to how the belt is routed before you take this all apart, so that you don't have issues getting the belts back on. If you question how the belts are going to go, take a picture of it so that you can pay attention to how they go onto the vehicle. Also, if you have to move any lines like we are here, pay attention to what lines you're moving when you take this apart. So what I'm going to do is just drop this down for now. I'm not actually going to pull this all the way out. I'm just going to put it down here for now. This gives me access to all of my idlers and my tensioners. Now I can begin the process of pulling out 2 tensioners and 1 more idler. But they are going to be the triple square bit. All of them are going to be this bit. Okay, I'm going for the idler on the drive belt. Okay, here's the idler on the drive belt. This one, again, lots of grease and oil, usually comes from the bearing. How we test these is we just see how much play is in there. There is a lot of play. So this one has a fair amount of play in it, meaning that this needs to go. Here's another sign that this thing wasn't doing its job properly. If you look at where this belt was riding on this pulley here, you'll see an area right on the side where the belt has not been riding, meaning that there has been no pressure from the belt on this pulley. Now, the reason this can happen is maybe this side of it got wore away, so the belt is slowly walking off of this side. But here, it's all the way smooth all the way to the edge. Here, there's dirt buildup. This tells me that the belt was not riding there. We're going to check to make sure that the bolt comes in this one. Otherwise, we are going to have to peel that apart. Okay, so the new one comes with a nice little dust cover, as you guys can see, plus the back side has all the mounting hardware already included, so we don't need to do anything with this. We do need to snap that cap off, though, without breaking it. So, if you get this at the parts store, and this cap is on it, you're going to have to take this cap off. And you're going to be careful with it to not break the cap. You don't need the cap, but it does help keep dust out of it. Okay, so this is where it is. This is the bit. If you notice, our other one was a triple square. Right here. This is what our other one was. That's not what's in here. This is a torque. We can't put that triple bit inside this one anymore. It won't fit. doesn't fit. So we will be switching to a torque bit to put this one on. Something to pay attention to, guys. Sometimes the hardware changes because the parts change at the parts store. Sometimes they make it easier for us by putting different bolts in it that are more common. This is a prime example of that. Let me grab the other one, just trying to do a side-by-side comparison for you guys here. So, triple square, torque bit. Triple square, torque bit. They changed the bolt on us. We can't put that pulley back in, because we do have to take the tensioner out first. All right, we got 8 of you in here, 5 likes. Thank you guys so much. Today is an awesome streaming day. Glad to be here with you guys. Okay, so triple square, a lot of play on this tensioner pulley. So when I pull this out, you guys are going to see there's a lot of play in that. It's got to come out. So this is some of the reason that the belts are not wearing right. This one, they're probably going to reuse this bolt, because this bolt doesn't seem to be fixed into it. It seems like I can unthread this bolt and take it out of the tensioner. But the pulley on the tensioner is toast. And you guys are going to see that here in just a bit. Okay. So their bolt does pull out. More than likely, we are going to have to reuse it for this tensioner. So this tensioner, let me see if I can get perfectly straight with you guys. There is enough play. It doesn't seem to be extreme, but there's enough play here that it will throw this belt out of whack. The belt that looked the worst was the drive belt, meaning that the pulleys were worse on the drive belt setup than they were on the supercharger. So I'm not super concerned about the supercharger stuff, but the drive belt did have issues. And one way to tell is to spin these. When I spin this one right now, I feel a vibration in my hand. That vibration means that the bearings are shot in it. This one was for the supercharger. I feel a little bit of play in this one. Like I can hear some bearing noise in it. I'll try to be real quiet and see if it picks up on camera. Yeah, it may not be picking up on camera, but there is some bearing noise to that. That is a sign of a problem. Anytime you hear bearing noise, there is a good chance that you have a problem there. This one feels smooth, but that also tells me that they were greasing this one. So this one will be deceiving. What we have to go by is the play on it. And this one has a pretty substantial amount of play in it compared to the old setup. So there is some play there. All right, just checking chats, guys. Seeing how everything's going. All right, awesome. So here's our new tensioner. Like I told you, this one's loaded. There's a key in it that holds this together. When we put this in, route the belt with all the new parts, we can take and turn this to take the tension off of this, and we can pull this pin out. I'm going to save these pins because these pins are very common in most tensioners. Because these pins are common, we can easily use them the next time we go to take a tensioner apart. Good thing to have and a good thing to use. Again, no bolts, so we're going to reuse our old one. There's also a key here in the bottom. So when we put this in, this key has to line up with a hole right by where this bolt is. It's always good to look where that key is, so that when you set it in there, you can get it lined up right. All right, so I threaded this one in by hand because I don't want this to wobble out. So that's how I did this one. It just works a lot better that way. Okay, snugged it up with the socket. Next, I'm going to find the torque bit that I need for this, because I am going to have to put this one on next. That has to go behind on the back side because we just put the tensioner for the supercharger on. This tensioner had a little bit of play in it, not a super big deal. The one ooh yeah, this is the drive one, guys. When I take this drive one out, you guys are going to see a big difference. This was the supercharger. So if I said that before, this is the supercharger tensioner. This one had a little bit of play in it. I could see a little bit of wear stuff, but it wasn't a big deal. Next, we're going to be putting in the idler pulley for our... Okay, correct that. This is why I do this for you guys. So, this has to come back out. People who pre-record their repairs, they'll edit things out like that. You guys, I don't edit things for you guys. So when something doesn't go together right, you guys get to see that. I got a chat there. I'll read that here in just a bit. Okay, we're taking this tensioner back out. This is the supercharger one. Again, a little bit of play on that tensioner. Not horrible bad, but enough that it was doing some belt damage. We need to put this idler in first. So I'm going to get the right torque bit for this one. We'll get this one put in first. With torque bits, guys, when you're getting torque bits, make sure you get the one that fits in there perfectly tight. You do not want play in these. You can strip these out or round them off. So make very sure that you got the right size. Got one from Bill. Most of the time, if not all of the time, the bearings are sealed. Yep. And because the bearings are sealed, when they start going bad, they'll puke their guts all over. That's why you guys are seeing these come apart and they look kind of ugly. So I'm using my torque bit, threading this down by hand. I don't want to get carried away yet and start using a wrench until I can get it down in there far enough. Okay. So this is the idler pulley for the drive belt, not the idler pulley for the supercharger. That's a different pulley that we'll put on here in just a bit. Okay, so this pulley is on there. It's right here, kind of hidden. It'd be kind of hard for me to get you guys in. But yes, Bill makes a good point. Most of these are sealed bearings, meaning that if they're starting to puke oil out of them, they're already not good. So now I'm putting the tensioner for the supercharger on, threading it in by hand, holding it into place where that keyway needs to be to hold it. Got it down as far as I can get it with my fingers. So before I took this apart, guys, I'm going to bring you in closer here. I want to show you something once I get this tightened up. I'm going to use the triple square to tighten. We reused the bolts. So do not over tighten, but make sure you do get these tight because it will make a difference. Okay, to show you guys that the bearings were starting to go bad in this, I'm going to bring you guys in close. I know it gets shaky when I move this camera because I don't have it on a gimbal. That is something I'm looking at for the future for you guys. So, right here. This is my idler. This one is my tensioner. Before I took this apart, there was barely any gap between these two pulleys. These pulleys overlap, meaning that this one goes on first because it's tucked in. This is meant for the drive belt. So the belt is meant to go around that alternator, down there, come up around the top here. So it'll come around, down, back up, and there's a cut, like a cutout right through here. This cutout is for the drive belt. So this helps you remember how to route this in there when you're doing this. Next, we're gonna go for that last tensioner. Then we get to play route the belts. Trying to find a good spot to put you guys. So we are going to have to pull this back to gain access to that tensioner right there. This tensioner is making a lot of noise, guys. An extreme amount of noise. You guys got any chats? You guys can chat them in down below. I'll read them on screen. If you guys are new here, We do this every Sunday at 1 p.m. Central. So new project every week. And this week we're doing belt tensioners on an Audi Q7 with the 3.0T engine. Okay, I need a little bit of an extension to get away from the crank pulley. So I may need two different extensions here, not sure which one I'll need, if I'll need the stubby one or this longer one. I brought both just in case. I'm going to try the stubby one first. I need it just a bit longer, but I can't go too long because then my lines are in the way. And that's actually too long, so I'm going to have to figure out a place to put this wrench or ratchet in order to get in here. Okay. So when this car was running, there was a little bit of noise coming from the front of this engine. They couldn't figure out what it was. They took it in to get it diagnosed. They wound up doing a bunch of other things, but what they missed was all of these drive belts. They missed the drive belt setup, they missed the supercharger, they missed all the idler pulleys, and this is where the noise was coming from. You guys are going to hear here in just a second once I get this out and spin this one. You guys will be able to tell that this was a big problem on this one. This tensioner is toast. And it's actually making so much noise that you could have heard this one while the engine was running. Again, they're going to want you to save the bolt because the bolt does come out. So here is our tensioner. According to my camera, it's picking up that sound, guys. That is shot bearings in a tensioner. You can never run a tensioner that is in this kind of shape. If you do, you're going to be stranded on the road. The bearings have failed. They're at the point that when these lock up, it's going to cause the belt to burn on here because it's not able to slide anymore. And it's going to potentially rip that belt and send that belt flying through where there's a bunch of hoses. And you're going to wrap it up around these pulleys, including potentially the supercharger pulley. So fixing this is major. All right, so just like our other one, this is our drive. We're going to reuse our bolt. It's keyed, meaning that we will have to take this key out once we've routed our belt and we know where everything's going to be with our 16 millimeter. We do have to put the bolt in, but what I want to show you guys is on the back side, there's always a keyway to these tensioners. This is designed to hold this into place so that the tensioner base doesn't move. Only this part that is spring loaded will move. So this locks this to the block so it can't move. This is what absorbs any shocks or vibrations in the drive belt system. You shouldn't have any shocks because the more the belt bounces, the more it can do damage to this bearing. And we're going to pay attention to that when we start this up and make sure that our belts are not bouncing. If they are, we may have a bad water pump, which our water pump feels good. We may have a bad AC pulley, or we may have a bad alternator. Those are common reasons that that belt bounces. So I'm going to slide this one in here. What I'm trying to do is locate the keyway, where that keyway belongs. Okay, I need to check something off of the old tensioner. Once I get this bolt started here, I'll move my hand and show you guys how I found where this belongs. So this one's a little tricky, guys. I'll show you guys once I get the bolt in. This one has a tricky spot on the block. So this one's not fully on there. If I take and slop this out right now, I could spin this around and it wouldn't fall into place where I want it to. So I want to thread this down so that it can't flop out of there. Okay, what I'm doing is I'm checking alignment here. I don't like where this is sitting. And this one is weird, very weird where it lines up. All right, we're in a good spot. We're in the right spot. So what you can do that is you can grab your old one and look at how it's tensioned. And that's what I was doing, was I was looking at how it was tensioned. Because when I release the keyway, I need to know which way the spring pressure is so that it doesn't just go driving into the crank pulley. I don't want it to drive into the crank pulley. I want it to go into the open space designed for it to take up the slack in the belt. Okay, so we're in the right spot right now. I do have to tighten that one up. So let's go ahead and do that. Just doing a double check. Okay, that one's tight. So now we can start routing our belts. We've gotten to a good point here on this. We're actually doing this project pretty quick, guys, so thank you guys for tuning in. We're at 100% engagement. That is awesome, guys. So our belts actually come in two different sizes, guys. We have a 5 groove and a 6 groove. The 5 groove is for our drive accessories. This is our water pump, our AC, and our alternator. That's what this belt needs to be, is the 5 groove. We'll route this one first because the supercharger pulley sits in front of this one. Okay. Okay, here remember we had to pull this out of the way in order to snake our belt behind this. So we are doing that. I'm also trying to get it up onto the water pump right away. Okay, so this is why I tell you guys it's important to take pictures. A loose routing of that belt right now, it will not fit. Just slapping it in there like that, the belt doesn't fit. This means that we don't have the routing correct. So we're going to play around with the routing on this belt and see if we can change how this works. There's only going to be one way that this belt will go in here. Okay. So I am not liking how this is routed. And I'm going to check it against the old belt. The belt numbers are different, so before I proceed, I'm going to do a stretch comparison on the belt to see if we're even close to the same length. Okay, stretch-wise, we're the same. So what it comes down to is the routing here. I gotta look at how the routing is. Okay, so what I need to do is I need to look up how to route this belt quick, guys. This is something that you might run into from time to time. I'm glad this happened on camera, actually, because this gives us a chance to figure out how we do this. So I am going to look this up quick, guys. If you guys got any questions, chat them in now. We'll read those on screen. There's 9 of you guys in here. Make sure you guys hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. It really does help. If you guys got anything to chat in, you guys can chat that in now while I'm looking this information up. So what you guys can do is go right here. You'll type in what you're looking for. Trying to get that to not reflect. Type in what you want. So we're typing in 3.0 Audi 2014 belt, and then we stop and we can see belt diagram and belt timing. So this is how we do this. We can just go in here, see the diagram. We'll click on it, and then it'll show us how it's routed. And what we're looking for is an image of our engine. So we want one that has our engine on it. And that's clear and easy to read. All right, so right here, guys, we got a belt diagram for this engine. It shows us how to route it. This is how we do this. So when we lose the routing, we can just simply go right on, jump onto your favorite web search. I use DuckDuckGo, but that's just me personally. And I can get a routing for this belt. This is how we do this, guys. When we can't find the routing, rather than sitting here wrestling with it and getting frustrated, what we do is we get after it and figure out where is our belt not routed correctly. And where our belt was not routed correctly was right over here. So I was trying to go in between an air pump pulley and our AC, and that wasn't where I needed to go. So where I needed to go was like so. So now I want to make sure I'm on all of my pulleys. And you want to make sure it's sitting perfectly on all of your pulleys before you pull that pin. Because when you pull that pin, it's going to lock everything into place. And if it's rubbing or touching something that it's not supposed to, you will destroy a brand new belt. So this is all done on purpose to route this a certain way. And we are double checking our routing before we release our tensioner. Okay, so our diagram is missing our air pump. It doesn't have an air pump. It has the AC, but it doesn't have the air pump. Our water pump is here, our crank is here, alternator's over here, idler and tensioner. We just replaced these two items. We're now putting the belt in, and where I had the problem was I was pulling the belt through here, where we had our air pump and our AC, and I was hooking it around here. Well, that's the wrong routing, because when you release the tensioner, it's going to go this way. It's going to go towards your AC pump. And when it does that, it wouldn't take the slack out. So I needed to come up and around the crankshaft, down around the tensioner, back over to the other idler pulley, then down around the alternator and back up. So that's how this one is routed. So now that we've got that, and there is still a tremendous amount of slack in this. If I take the tensioner loose and it doesn't fix our slack problem, then we got the wrong belt. Because we do know that it's now in the right position. So Bill says if you don't have the belt routing on the core support or under the hood, I draw it out on paper. That's another great way to do it. Otherwise, take a picture of it, guys. But if those don't work and you've already taken it apart and you've forgotten the belt routing, then look it up online. You can easily get a search of it. Now this one doesn't have it because some of the higher end cars don't have it because they intentionally hide it from you because they want you to take it to the dealer. If that is the case, just know that you can always look those up online. So what I'm doing now is I'm trying to release this tensioner to pull that keyway out. I want to pull that pin out. All right, so we've taken up the slack now in the tensioner. Arm out of the way for you guys so you guys can see the routing here. What we're also going to do is make sure that the belt is in place for initial startup. We want to make sure it's on every pulley and it's not jumped off or in a wrong position. If it is, what can happen is we'll chew up a brand new belt. Also, we want to make sure that our belt isn't rubbing or touching on something that's going to tear the belt. So we're double checking our clearances. Now on these imports, the clearances are extremely tight. Meaning there's a lot of hoses and a lot of things that this thing could get caught on. If you don't like the position, take the time to adjust. So I don't like the position of where the tensioner or the belt is on the tensioner. So I'm going to take a little slack off and slide it out. Sometimes initial startups on belts are the most important, because what happens is it establishes where the groove is going to be, where that belt is going to ride. So super important to make sure that it's all lined up. Make sure you're not rubbing on something that you're not supposed to be. Because if you are, then you have to find that proper belt sequence. And there is some very tight spots on this one. Extremely tight. Okay, so I pulled up another picture. I was questioning it, so what we do is we just double check. We pull up another picture, see how it's routed. That's exactly how we have it right now. So that's perfectly routed to the way that it was when we took it off. So we should not be rubbing on anything. It is extremely tight right here by this housing though. Yeah, it's crazy close. But that's the way they want it. So that's the way they get it. All right. Pull this up again. All right, 8 of you guys in here. Awesome. We're maintaining a pretty decent level. So next, we're going for our idler on our supercharger. This one had a little bit of play, a little bit of noise, a little bit of grease. This one is a sealed bearing, and I can tell you that this one is actually packed with grease because I can feel it. So we took this one out by sliding it down and around to get it into the engine, meaning we need to redo that same procedure to get this to go in. It's only going to go in one way. Just like that. Now they did put a triple square bit on this one. So this one has the triple bit square, which we're going to use again. And we're going to run this in by hand. Okay, so we're down snug. Now what I can do is tighten this up. Again, this is the idler for the supercharger. Okay, we do have a little bit of grease on that pulley. We're going to wipe that off before we go any farther. Try to keep any oils or greases off of these pulleys while you're doing this. Sometimes it can't be helped, especially when you're trying to route a belt. Your hand's going to get dirty because you are going to touch the motor, but when you can see it and you know that there's grease on it, try to wipe that off before you get started. You can take the time and wipe all of your pulleys if you want. That's your call. I don't normally do that. It's going to have a little bit of debris in it anyway when you're doing this process, so that's why I don't get super alarmed by that. All right, next we're going to go for our supercharger belt. So, just so you guys know, we are getting to the point where I normally ask you guys to start chatting in your questions. So once we finish this, I'll do a startup to see if all the noise has gone away. And then once we've done that, we are pretty much good to go. All right, supercharger belt goes on really tight, guys, and it should, because superchargers require the engine to provide the power to spin the impellers inside of the supercharger, meaning that this belt needs to be very, very tight. It also needs to be on the pulleys perfectly before we release the tensioner. Again, this is the same process that we did with the main drive belt. We make sure everything is routed where it needs to be perfectly before we go any farther. Just saw I was off camera, guys, so I'll give you guys a second. Give me ones if everything's making sense. Give me twos if not, and tell me why. Ones if everything's making sense. Twos if not, and tell me why. So this one I routed around the supercharger. This has to be really tight around this pulley. This idler actually brings this belt in closer so more of the belt rides on this. This is really important to not have slop in that. If there's slop, what'll happen is your supercharger won't build power. So this belt is really crucial to make sure that it gets tight. This is why they have the idler and the tensioner positioned the way they do. The belts will get really close. They won't touch, but they're going to get close together so that more of the belt rides on here. Okay. Not seeing any ones. Awesome. 100% engagement. I love that, guys. Today has been an awesome stream. We've done a lot of good things. So we've got most of our system back together. We don't have any rubbing or touching issues in areas that we're not supposed to. It gets really close though. There are some areas that get extremely close. So I'm going to go ahead and release this tensioner. Again, it goes around here, down to here, around the crankshaft, which is down there, back over to the tensioner and up. It wants to close this gap as tight as it possibly can for the supercharger pulley. Okay, so what happens, you pull this key out, and the tensioner moves away from the crank, away from the crankshaft. So now what it's done is it's tightened up this belt and put maximum pressure on this bearing. This idler helps, and the tensioner down there definitely helps. So we are at the point that we can put our cover back on, our little engine cover, tiny little thing. Awesome, done, that's on. So the only thing left on this car was something I was going to make another video on. There's actually two things. So let me get set up over on the bench, and we will transition into the next step here, guys. So I'll transition you guys over. All right, If you guys got any questions, chat them in now, guys. We are getting ready to transition into our next phase of the show. So usually our next phase is news and other topics that you guys want to talk about. I'm going to clean up my hands quick and we can get rolling. I don't want to really touch my keyboard until I get cleaned up. All right, guys, chat in your questions now. We'll get them read here on screen. I think it's up there. Just getting cleaned up. So this repair was 100% successful. We got everything put in where it belongs. Everything's routed correctly. Everything's tight. I don't have anything that I need to worry about. Now, if you were ever concerned that you did something wrong, do not start the car. The minute you start the car, if anything's wrong, it's going to shred the belts. So make sure that the routing is correct. Take the time to look it up. Some vehicles, again, won't have it on the vehicle. More of your exotics will not have belt routing because they don't expect the owners of those vehicles to work on them. So you got to look them up online. And I showed you guys how to do that. All right, we got... My stream is saying I've got 7 of you guys in here and 7 likes, so that's 100% engagement. Awesome, guys. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Gonna check a few things. Guys, get your questions chatted in now. I'll read those on screen. A little lower on views today, but I kind of knew this topic wasn't a super big topic like other ones that I've seen. Can I get a check from my mods? Throw wrenches up if you guys are in here. Let's get some wrenches flying. Let's get this chat going. I definitely want to do that before I switch over to the news. I'd like to get engagement up again. Sometimes when I do like the projects, it kind of slows down engagement. So I'd like to try to get the engagement back up again before I start the news. It's good to have you guys in here. Every Sunday at 1 p.m. Central, we do a project following up by news and then a kind of a recap before we end our stream. Streams usually go about 3 hours every Sunday. So it's always good to have you guys in here and checking the chats. Guys, chat in any of your questions. Doesn't matter, whatever the automotive topic is, chat it in. Try to keep it automotive though. If you guys have, if it's your first time tuning in, make sure you guys keep it automotive. That's what we do here. Otherwise, if it's political and it does get into the automotive field, I do talk about it. So I do have some stuff in the news to talk about this week when it comes to that. So again, I always try to get my engagement up before I start the news because, yeah, they throttle me every time on my news cycle, guys, every single time. And some of it is because of the topics that I bring up. I don't like the direction that some of the automotive stuff is headed. So I tend to call it out pretty quickly. And because I do that, I usually get in a little bit of trouble when it comes to the algorithm. They don't push my content like I want, but it is what it is. We're here to do this for you guys and share our information. Make sure that you guys are getting solid information and not just the garbage that's spewed over and over again. And trust me, there is plenty of that going on. So usually I will use Motor Trend. Guys, I already know Motor Trend is very left leaning, meaning that they do push EV stuff a lot, but I go there because in order to effectively know what's going on with automotive or even in the world, You need to listen to all sides. You can't just listen to the side that you agree with. If you do that, you're not going to understand what's going on. You're only going to get a portion or a picture of what the real information is. You need to listen to all sides. Once you've done that, then you can make an effective decision. So I use Motor Trend even though I don't agree with them. Some things I agree with, some things I don't, but a lot of stuff on Motor Trend I do not agree with. I will tell you guys that right now. I will be 100% honest about that. I check them out because they are kind of the opposition. They are kind of the opposite side of what I look for. And there is some new stuff coming up on that, guys, that you're going to want to hear, because we've got a mixed match of stuff going on at GM. That's some of the news coming up here. We have a 180 on Dodge, and Ford is laying low. They're being quiet when it comes to a lot of new stuff. Their recalls hit them really hard, so they're being very, very quiet. So first up, it says right at the top of the news cycle, can the Chevy ZR2 keep up with Jeeps in Moab? So Moab is a off-road track that people take their trucks to. It is a torture test for manufacturers. It's where they go to torture test all their vehicles, make sure that they're up to snuff. What I don't like from the Colorado right now is they offered a 400 horsepower option package when this truck was released. Currently, that package is not available, meaning that you used to be able to get that 4-cylinder and the option of 400 horsepower, but they couldn't make it happen, so they had to take the package away. Right now, the truck has one motor option, and it's only 310 horsepower, which is very small. To be honest with you, I could probably take the motor out of Crimson Vortec, which is an 01 GMC Jimmy. I could rebuild that motor with only changing pistons and a little bit of machining in the heads, and I could get that motor close to what they're putting out for horsepower. So this tells you that they really haven't done much in the horsepower area when it comes to this truck. Now, with the ZR2, the reason that truck can do well off-road is because, number one, it's a lifted truck, so it's higher than the base model truck or even a Z71. So it's a little higher off the ground. Number two, they changed the bumper angles, meaning that they cut the front bumper out to give you more clearance. This helps, but the one thing they didn't change was the rear bumper angles. So you do have a little bit of hang up on that rear bumper when you're going off-road. These are things to know if you're choosing this truck as an off-road. Personally, I wouldn't necessarily go with the ZR2 as a full off-road truck. Trail truck, maybe. Full off-road rock crawler, no. And the reason why is just the design of the truck does not set you up for success on a rock crawler. The reason Jeeps do so well is they have a much shorter wheelbase, meaning that wheelbase is sandwiched up so that they don't have drag angles in the middle of the vehicle where the vehicle could drag and get caught. The other thing is usually those are still up higher and the bumpers don't come down as far like they do on the ZR2. Don't get me wrong, I like the way the ZR2 looks. I like the styling of it. I like everything about it. If I wanted to blow 70 grand, one way to go do it. Personally, I can think of many different ways to spend 70 grand that I could help out a whole lot more, especially when it comes to what I'm doing. So that's why I haven't bought that truck. Bill with the round of applause. Thank you very much, Bill. Trying to give you guys a very thorough breakdown of what's going on here with this competition with the Jeep and the Colorado. In my mind, it's a good trail truck. It's not a good off-road truck. So if you're going to use it for rock crawling, probably not a good idea. If you're just going to go off-roading somewhere, probably a really good truck for that. Farmers, people who have to go through wooded areas, probably a good truck. But beyond that, I really wouldn't say I'm a big fan of that. Give me ones if that all makes sense to you guys. Give me ones if that makes sense to you guys. Awesome, we got 8 of you guys in here. We're keeping solid views, that's what I like. Awesome. See some wrenches in the chat, guys. Toss some wrenches up. It's good to have my mods in here today. Let's do a mod check also. I want to know what other mods are in here. I know Bill's in here. I wonder if Jay's still here or if he dipped out for a bit. If you guys like this content, if you guys like what we do here, make sure you guys are subscribing. Make sure you guys are liking. Also, if you guys want to support the channel, consider joining our members only area. I do offer certain things within the member area that you will not get on our live streams. There will be, eventually, once we get enough people in there, we will have private streams only for the members only. We will also do other things that kind of help build this channel and build the direction we go. We got a lot of ideas coming. I'm going to go ahead and drop some of those right now. So I promised you guys an engine build. We hinted that it might have been Crimson Vortec, but I have an option on the table where I could build a big block 460 for a Continental Lincoln. I'm thinking that's going to be a much better build. It's a big engine. We can generate big power and we don't have to spend a bunch of money to do it. Plus, when it comes down to it, this car is actually a friend of mine's, so we get to play around with it without having to blow our budget on this car. And he wants to make sure it's 100% reliable, and I definitely can do that for him. It's going to take some machining, it's going to take some tearing some stuff down and organizing as we take things apart so that we know where things go. Once we've done that and we've got everything apart, we can then start adjusting and playing around with this setup to get everything lined up so that this engine will be 100% bulletproof with way more power than it came from the factory. And in a 4-door Continental Lincoln, that's more of a luxury car, that is a nice option because having more power at your disposal on a heavier car makes that car a whole lot more fun. So, right now, that's what we have going on in the works for that. And we'll know more by the end of the year this year, what direction we're taking with that. It will either be a motor build for Crimson Vortec or it's going to be a motor build for a friend of mine and their car. Yeah, speaking of Lincoln Continental, guys. So they did a King of the Hill competition between Cadillac Eldorado versus a Lincoln Continental Mark III. One was a 68 in the Cadillac and a 69 Lincoln Continental Mark III. So let's kind of see what they said. Now this would be a King of the Hill competition where they're designed, they want to get to the top of that hill as quickly as they can. So they will push that car up there as quick as they possibly can without wrecking it. Also, the point of this is to see which one was probably better back in the day. So they compare engine sizes. The Lincoln Continental had the 460 in it. And let's see what the Cadillac had. I'm going to guess the Cadillac probably had, don't think it would have had the 454. I think it would have had bigger than that. Still paging through the article here to see what motor was in it. A lot of history there that I'm reading through, guys. Most of it is just trivial stuff. 500 cubic inch. So they did go with the 500 cubic inch in the Cadillac. I kind of figured it was going to be bigger than a 454. I just didn't know if it was going to be the 500 or if they had it even bigger than that yet. But back then, the old school cars had huge engines in them. And again, this is why we're considering rebuilding this motor for this Lincoln, because it already has a coolant leak that needs to be fixed. It already has an oil leak that needs to be fixed. This is all leaks on this engine. While we're going to fix these, it would make more sense to just pull the transmission, pull the motor, gut the two apart, pull them apart, take the transmission off to a shop to be rebuilt. And I know you guys might ask, why won't I rebuild a transmission? Number one, I don't have all the specialty tools for that. There is a bunch of special rings and stuff like that you need special tools to be able to take a transmission apart in the internals. Also, it's very specific on how you put them together. If you mess up that process in any way, shape, or form, the transmission will detonate. It will grenade the transmission. So it's very, very fussy. Plus, if you're going to do it right, you need to be able to do the valve body. The valve body has to be taken apart. There's certain processes that have to be gone through. There's so much with that valve body that you can mess up a transmission very fast. So it's better to take one to somebody who's done many of them all day long than it is to try to experiment. If you want to, and you're in the process of wanting to learn that skill though, you will probably wreck more than your fair share of transmissions. It will happen because there's so much to learn and it takes time to learn. Not everyone's going to be able to show you every technique, so you're going to run into problems. It happens in transmissions. The engine, on the other hand, we will be tearing that engine down and we will be rebuilding that engine. All right, if you guys got any more chats, chat those in. Oh, we lost the like. That's not good. Okay, all right, let's get back into it here. They get into price points when they were brand new. I'm trying to get to where, yeah, they put up a whole build sheet on the bottom end. So here's what we've got on their specifications for the two cars. The Lincoln was a 460 and the Cadillac actually had they're saying it wasn't a 500. They're saying it was a 471.7. That means that more than likely that motor was tampered with a bit. Yeah, it had a carburejet or quadrajet carburetor, which those were junk to begin with. Cadillac had about 10 more horsepower and about 25 more foot-pounds of torque. So, I mean, those aren't huge differences, but it's enough when you're pulling big hills to notice. Every little bit on a big hill makes a difference. And the Cadillac is actually lighter by almost 100 pounds, actually over 100 pounds. So it's over 100 pounds lighter, which that makes a difference. So you add that with the additional horsepower and the weight, you can already see why that would be a faster car. Yeah, they're even saying quarter mile times is 8.8 on the Cadillac and 9.2 on the Lincoln. So that kind of tells you what the comparison was there. And yeah, they deemed that the Cadillac was the winner of that challenge. So the Cadillac squeaked out that victory, which doesn't surprise me really from Cadillac. It really doesn't. Back in the day, Cadillac did some crazy stuff, and where they went wrong was they started doing experimental technology. That experimental technology pushed the company to be a test bed for all of their new ideas. There's actually a year of Cadillac that you can't insure because they're fire hazards. I want to believe it's in the 80s somewhere, 84, 85, somewhere in there. There's 1 year of a certain model of Cadillac that you cannot get insurance for it because they are deemed fire hazards. So, very interesting news on that. Scrolling the news here, seeing what's going on. All right, let's go ahead and get into Dodge news. So I talked about this a little bit. I got to get into some Chevy stuff here towards the tail end, but we're going to touch on the Dodge front right now. So 2026, they are revising the V8 Hemi engine. They are bringing it back to put into the Ram. Where I'm concerned is if they're going to e-torque it. If they put the e-torque on it, it's no different than what it was 2 years ago. If they decide to give you a non-e-torque option, then it shows that they're definitely going away from that front. And that's good to know. We want to know that. So again, this is for 2026 models, meaning we're not going to see what their plans are until the end of this year. Once we see those plans and we start seeing what's going on, guys, you know I will tell you. You guys know I'll bring it to you, and we will talk about it and bring it up. All right, we got some chats coming in here. RSVG says, can you ship cars to the UK if we buy and you pick up and ship? I'm sure there are people that will ship cars overseas. Again, I'm from the US, so I do know that they will ship cars in, like more of the exotics will come into the US. There is quite a bit of cost, and oftentimes you wind up paying usually it's some kind of an embargo tax that you got to pay. So usually you'll pay a tax when it comes into your country that you pay the additional tax to have it shipped in. So that's a little bit of a negative. Can you ship mechanisms for fly doors? Yeah, that's one of those things where you can get any kind of accessories online. Amazon has plenty of them. All right. But yes, getting back to the Hemi thing. This is going to be interesting to see what they do with the V8 revised and what they're going to do as far as the e-torque. Are they going to bring e-torque back? Are they not? They've already talked about killing off the charger, the two-door EV charger. So that they're already pulling back the reins on that. That means that they understand that the EV is not popular with the general masses. It's just not. It's not, how do I want to say this? It's not feasible for most people to have an EV that have to drive major distances. It doesn't work. And our power grid ain't set up for it. I've already talked about this in ad nauseum when it comes to the EV stuff. I've gotten severely punished for talking out about the EV stuff. So I'm not going to get too deep into the woods on that today, but I can tell you they're starting to understand that the majority of their base wants gasoline engines, meaning that they can either go back to what they were doing and create cars that have horsepower and sell cars, or they can try to keep going down this EV path and wind up blowing up the company and making it to where the company goes under. The new CEO who replaced the old one from Stellantis knows that without the performance side and the horsepower and the gasoline side, you will not be able to keep that brand alive. That brand was based on horsepower. It was based on race cars. They will not survive if they don't stick to their heritage. They've gone away from it in the past, and there's a reason why they're owned by foreign companies. It's because they went away from it, and when they did, it detonated the company. And the other companies that have bought them have chosen to use them as shell companies up until Fiat. Fiat was willing to indulge in the performance side. But we haven't seen that out of that brand since they pretty much got sold off. Pretty much everything from late 70s all the way up to, I would say, you know, right towards the tail end of the Daimler Chrysler setup. That's when they started doing more performance stuff. Just before that ended, right before Fiat took over. Awesome. RSVG asks, has Dodge Ram trucks gone hybrid electric? They tried, and they failed miserably. They tried to push an EV version of the Dodge Ram, failed. They tried pushing a hybrid version of the Dodge Ram, and a lot of people are bailing away from it. The e-torque has been an absolute disaster because an e-torque is ran off of an oversized alternator that runs the electric side of the truck. Because of that, that e-torque takes so much abuse during its use that it basically is like replacing an alternator. Well, problem is this alternator can run you about $3,000 to replace, depending on how much the shops charge. Now, some are going to argue, well, that's what a warranty's for. Here's what I'm going to argue back. Yes, that's what the warranty is for, but the problem is when that warranty runs out, you're eating that cost. And if you have something that is notorious for failing this much and costing $3,000, these trucks are not going to have very good resale value. I've already said that. I've already gone after them, and every time I do, I wind up getting punished. Again, they don't like it when I speak out about that stuff, but that's what's going on. So hopefully that answers your question there, RSVG. Just checking the chats quick before I scroll back down on the news. I'm gonna work on screen sharing, guys, to see if I can screen share this while we're doing the news section. I would like to do that. Something I'll work on for the future. Here's one for you guys. If you are considering buying a brand new SUV or crossover, you guys might want this one. This article came out. This is 2025 utility vehicles. And what they're going to do is just kind of break it down. So the first one is the Hyundai Venue, which is $21,650. Next, they did the Kia Soul at $21,885. These are going to be base models, guys. Anytime you deal with stuff like this, the reason that they can say it's cheap is because they do base models only. Next, you've got the Chevy Trax at $21,895. To me, so far out of this list, the Chevy Trax would be the best option. The motors are not horrible. You do have timing chain issues, so you will have to do timing chains, but Nissan Kick Play, which is a $22,910 car, ranks number 4 on this list. Number 5 is the Nissan Kick at $23,220. Next, the Chevy Trailblazer makes an appearance on the list at number 6 at $24,890. Again, guys, these are all going to be base models. Whenever you hear the cheapest on a list, it's always base models. So this is going to be the most stripped down version of these vehicles that you're getting your hands on. Number 7 is the Buick Investa for $25,195. Number 8 is the Mitsubishi Outlander Sport at $25,500. Next is Toyota Corolla Crossover. Now, at one point, they were going to kill off this crossover. They weren't going to produce them. So that was something that was interesting to see it come back in. I don't know why I keep dropping likes. Don't know what's going on there. Okay. Yep, the crossover is at 25,680. Next is the Hyundai Kona at 26. And that rounds out the top 10. So, if you guys are looking for a cheap SUV, those are the ones on the list. If you're looking for, you know, something that is not an import, your top one goes to the Chevy Trax. If you guys aren't too concerned about that, the other ones are the Hyundai View or Venue and the Kia Soul. And you guys know we got a Kia Soul here on the channel. So you guys know we have one. And if they haven't fixed the engine issues, they're going to kind of get what they deserve when it comes to the Kia side. So it is what it is. All right. It's good to have you guys in here on this Sunday. We do this every Sunday. We do a repair, we do some news, we do a recap, and then we call it a day. Usually about a 3-hour stream. Make sure you guys hit that like button, hit the subscribe, ring that notification bell so you get notified when we go live, which is every Sunday at 1 p.m. If you wish to help support the channel, please consider becoming a member. Got a lot of stuff coming up. You guys are seeing me wear future merch here, so we are working on color designs right now, and I do need to get a store put up first. So there's some things in the works. I do have some benchmarks that I need to hit though, in order for me to start bringing you guys merch. So I'm really trying to push to get to 5,000 subscribers by the 4th of July. So I'm not sure if we'll meet that goal, but we are pushing for it. All right, 9 of you guys in here. Make sure you guys hit that like button. They keep pulling likes away from me, so make sure you guys hit that like button. Just checking out some last little bits on the news, anything that's worth talking about. Best tire inflators for 2025. These are going to be basic tire inflators that you can get your hands on. And not all of these are going to work if you have tires that hold a lot of air pressure. Overall, best was a Astro AI cordless tire inflator. The best ultra compact was the Craftsman 12 volt max power. So that was just a portable one. And then the best for trucks and SUVs, because they have bigger tires, they use more air, was a Vexlar 88P. And basically they look like, the one looks like a drill with the cord coming out and the battery pack down below. The other one looks more like a portable hand compressor that you can just clip onto a battery source and then use the hose on the other end. The other one looks like a handheld scanner. The Craftsman looks like a handheld scanner that you just clip onto the tire and it works that way. So there's what the two of them look like. I wish I could show you guys better, but yeah, it's gonna look weird if I try to show screen. I gotta figure that out for you guys. Awesome, we got 10 of you guys in here. Make sure you guys hit that like button, hit the subscribe. It really does help the channel and helps us grow. Again, every Sunday at 1 p.m. Let's see here, what do we got for more news? I will get into the Chevy stuff in just a bit, guys. So they did put out an article on the Ram. We were just talking about Ram, that the CEO promises a turnaround. And what they're turning around from is their commitment to EV. What could possibly happen is if Stellantis is dead set on EV, they might try to sell off Dodge and Ram at this point and get out of the US market if they realize that it's going to hurt them too much. And what the new CEO who replaced the old one from Stellantis is going to try to do is build up that value within the Ram and Dodge and Jeep brand to be able to move that to a market where they're going to be promoting the horsepower, where they're going to be promoting technology. But at the same time, they're not going to go away from their heritage. So that's more than likely what he's going to be trying to do here. And I'm just reading some of what this is. They're saying that sales have diminished drastically in the last year, and that they are seeing huge drops all across their lines because of the EV push. They are holding off on a potential for the Dodge Dakota. They do not have any more details on that one right now because they were going to bring that out as a mid-size EV pickup. And because they're putting massive delays on all their EVs, and they're saying some of the EV stuff will not arrive until 2027. So they're going to work to bring back the brand and the horsepower before they continue on with the EV side. Again, if they keep the e-torque, we're not gaining much. They need to do a straight up gas engine and get rid of any potential for that e-torque. Unfortunately, I don't know if they're going to do that. So that will remain to be seen. You guys got any questions, chat them in down below. I'll read them on screen, and we'll go over any automotive topics. The reason I'm holding off on the GM stuff and the reason I'm holding off on some more of the EV is I really want to get my views in and get the likes up before I really get into this. So 8 of you guys in here, make sure you guys hit that like button. My likes keep dropping, so I don't know why that is. But get those likes up, and we're going to get into 2 of our last pieces here. So I'm going to save the whole Tesla Elon Musk thing for the end. You guys knew I was going to bring it up. If I'm doing news here at the end, you guys know I'm bringing it up. So we'll go into the Chevy side of things, and then we'll move forward into the rest of the news for this week, which gets a little bit more political. Okay, so GM, I don't like the direction they're going. They're playing this back and forth EV game, but they're also investing a large amount of money into their brand new gasoline powered V8 engine that's going to be in their pickups. Where I argue with these guys is they destroyed the 6-cylinder options for the Colorado. They took away solid performing engines to do these crazy cylinder cutout setups, active fuel management, things like that. And it's made the trucks worse. It's made reliability worse. There are people who have trucks with less than 60,000 miles on it that are already having engine failures due to lifters. The whole thing with the active fuel management is it's designed on the lifter setup, meaning that when that system fails, it destroys the cam and oftentimes wrecks the engine. Had they just stuck to the traditional pushrod engine, they would have not had all these problems. Again, they were chasing things put forth on them by administration. They were also trying to chase their competitors, and now they're trying to set the pace in some certain things. And where they're trying to set pace is in the EV market, and I'm not a fan of that. For that reason alone, I don't know if I would go new on that side of things. Ford has been remarkably quiet on their EV front because their Ford Lightnings have been an absolute failure, and for good reason, because their EV setups have just been trash. And it isn't that you can't get the mileage out of them, because really you can't get the mileage out of an EV. You'll get about 300. That's about it. Ragnarok says, "What's up, homie? Yo, did you pursue in mechanical engineering?" No, I did not. I can get into this again if you guys want. Give me a 1 in the chat if you guys want me to get into my background again. I've shared my background a lot. Give me 1s in the chat if you guys want me to get into my background. And I'll do that for you guys. A little bit of delay on my end, but that's all right. 1s in the chat if you guys want me to get into my background. Otherwise, I'll keep pushing with the topic. But to get to my topic on the EV side with the Chevy side, they started doubling down on the EVs when everyone else is running away from them. They're making a bad decision. There's a reason for that, though. You got to look at who the shareholders are and who's really in charge of the company. In order for me to do that, I need to do a whole video on Cash for Clunkers for you guys. The Cash for Clunkers will tell you guys why they're doing what they're doing, why they're pushing in the areas that they're pushing when everyone else seems to be running away. That would really explain things for you guys and help you guys put those pieces together. Right now, I am so knee-deep in projects that I can't really dedicate one stream for a Cash for Clunkers stream. If it's something you guys want to see, let me know. Either put it in the chat down below or drop it over in the live chat. And what I'll do is I'll try to maybe do a special. If I have a Saturday that's open, I'll just do a special live stream that's just going to be Cash for Clunkers episode. And I know I'm going to get punished in the algorithm for it. They don't like it when I talk about EV stuff. They really don't. Make sure you guys are hitting that like button, hitting the subscribe. There's 9 of you guys in here. I try to keep about 50% engagement. It really does help the channel and helps us grow. We're really trying to do a lot this year. Trying to get a merch store going. We're trying to bring you guys more content. Trying to do engine builds, projects. You guys are already seeing the Audi. We just got done doing Malibu steel, which was a front bumper and a bunch of engine stuff. We're trying to do a lot more of these projects. So we're trying to bring you guys more and more and more and more. I even have some AC stuff coming, guys. It's summer. It's getting hot. People want their AC to work. And I'll show you guys how to fix yours. Crimson Vortec has a really bad air conditioning system and it needs to get fixed. All right. So I've given this as long as I can. It's time for me to pull up my sleeves and go into this. AMP Auto, good to see you in here. Hope everyone's been well. Sorry, I've been super busy. Not a problem, man. Good to have you in here on this Sunday. So AMP Auto, this is going to be the new time. We do Sundays at 1 p.m. rather than Saturdays. The reason why, people have more time, people are relaxing. It works better for my schedule because I'm able to spend more time with my family. So it's important for me to have that time. So I've restructured quite a bit. And you guys are seeing a whole new live stream here. So everything from all the information up above, all the information down below. My new streams are going to look like this. So it'll have the name across the top. It'll say live. It'll have a logo in the corner. It'll say the like and subscribe. Make sure you guys are liking and subscribing. And it's going to say what the topic was for the day down below in green. This is the new layout for the channel, guys. This is what we're going to do from this point on. So what this will do is help you guys see what's going on, get into the topic. Works better for me also. Awesome, awesome. Yeah, I like having my mods in, guys. Every time my mods are in, you guys are awesome. You guys really do help me monitor chat and help things out. So I really do like having my mods here. All right, we're getting some traction. Make sure you guys are hitting that like button. There's 12 of you guys in here. If you're new here, every Sunday at 1 p.m., we do a project, which I've already done today. Then we get into the news, then we do kind of a wrap up, and then we call it a day. Usually it goes about 3 hours is what we do for a stream, so not everyone's here for the full 3, but the longer you're here, the better, because it really does kind of help the channel. So, all right. Time for me to get mean. All right. This whole beef between Trump and Elon, these are two children fighting it out, and they're two children that are billionaires. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Somebody's feelings got hurt because they wasted time, and when they wasted the time that they did, they felt that they should have gotten more out of it. I'm referring to Elon on that. Where I'm calling Trump a little kid is how he's handling it. Rather than putting this behind closed doors and trying to work this out with Elon separately, they're doing this out in the open media. This could be all a political stunt. But here's what I'm telling you guys. As this being a situation where Elon lost a lot of money, let's not lie. SpaceX is in trouble. They're hurting. Tesla, they took a huge hit. In fact, his net capital has dropped in billions. He used to be worth almost $1 trillion. It's around 400 billion right now. He lost a huge chunk of money by deciding to help Trump. And this is where the feelings are hurt. This is why we're seeing this backlash. Now, let's ask ourselves why. Why did this happen? Hey, Jay, good to have you back. Let's ask why Elon's so upset. It isn't just the fact that he wasted his time to try to make the government more efficient, but he had too high expectations on how to fix our government problem. Because of that, he started getting backlash. That backlash affected his bottom line. It affected Tesla. Huge. From the dealerships getting burnt down, to people vandalizing the cars, and ultimately causing him to not be able to sell very many cars. You guys got to remember, he was selling EVs. He wasn't selling gasoline engines. So he went to work for the same people, or I should say the opposite people of who he was selling his EVs to. His EVs were being sold to more liberal people. Those liberal people got very butthurt, and there was a lot of hurt feelings there, which is why they lashed out at Elon. That being said, he decided to step away. But billionaires being billionaires, throwing their weight around and doing what they do, he couldn't do it in a small fashion. He had to crash out. And that crash out is what we're seeing. 14 of you guys in here, hit that like button. Guys, I'm about to get punished for this stream because of 2 reasons. Number 1, I'm speaking out against Elon. Good thing I'm not on X, Twitter, whatever you guys want to call it. I'm not over there. Number 2, they're going to go after me because I'm talking about negatives on EV. AMPI says, or AMP says, or APM Auto. Let me get that right. APM or APM Auto says Tesla is about to have a redesign and produce the world's most efficient and reliable ICE if they want to survive now. I agree with you. At this point, because he's alienated his fan base so much and the people who bought his car, this particular group of people can't do anything subtle. They can't do anything softly. They crash out every time something doesn't go their way, just like he's doing. Here's the thing. If he was to produce the most efficient and reliable ICE vehicle possible, he could regain what he's lost. The problem is, I don't know if his pride and his ego will let him do it. I don't think so. And that's my view on it. I don't think he could personally resort to doing it. All right, 10 of you guys in here. Make sure you guys hit that like button. Jay says, that may work, but they couldn't sell stuff. Yeah, see, that's the problem is that because of the crash out, he's going to have to restructure a lot in order to regain what he's lost. He's going to have to restructure the company. He's going to have to restructure his thought process. And he's going to have to try to sell to the base that, for the most part, he's snubbed and not wanted to be a part of. He's not a Republican. He's not of the conservative values. He's not. He's always been Democrat. He's always been very left-leaning. Again, this gets into politics, but this also has to do with automotive. So I have to speak on this because that's what we are here. We're an automotive channel. But when it comes down to it, the media is stirring the pot, so don't necessarily believe everything. And check and listen to multiple sources. Don't just trust one source. When it comes to this, listen to 3 or 4 other people speak on this so that you can understand where things are going. That's the right thing to do. Don't just trust one source. Anyone who trusts legacy media is obviously going to have a problem. And that comment right there is probably the reason I'm going to get in a lot of trouble. But it is what it is. I have to tell you guys the truth. And if it doesn't help my channel growth, then it doesn't help. But at least I'm being truthful. At least I can wake up every day in the mirror, look myself in the mirror and go, you know what? I was truthful. No matter what, I did what was right. And that's what I do here. So, and that goes even on the repair side, guys. When I do a repair that doesn't work, I want to show you. Because if it doesn't work for me, you guys might be able to see it and then say, okay, he had this trouble. What did he do to fix it? And if I show you guys how I fix it, now you guys have the knowledge. And this is how you do anything in life. Everything in life needs to be that you're being truthful and you're being honest. I'm 100%. If you guys met me in real life, I am the same person here as I am off camera. The only difference is maybe out in public, I'm a little bit more quiet. I don't really talk out much when I'm in public, but I'm still the person you guys see here. Let's get some wrenches up in the chat. Got 11 of you guys in here. Like I said, today is kind of a lower stream. I'm trying to keep this going so that I can keep my views up. Make sure you guys hit that like button, hit the subscribe if you guys are not subscribed. If you guys want to support the channel, consider becoming a member. I read all super chats and I do shout out super chats. So if you do super chat, I do shout that out. Just looking at news stuff and checking some of my stats here. Awesome. Yeah, kind of a lower stream today, guys, but again, I knew this topic wasn't going to be. I've done quite a few of these. Jay with the big wrenches in the chat. Awesome, man. Thank you, thank you. Yeah, don't be afraid to throw up wrenches anytime, guys. I don't like people spamming chat, but if it's wrenches, I'm going to let you guys stream or spam that all day long. I don't care. So anytime you want to spam the wrenches, go for it. All right, so what can we see from the future when it comes to the Tesla stuff? What can we expect that he's going to try to do? He's at a crossroads. He has 2 points that he can do. He can either continue to crash out and stir up problems and keep ragging on Trump, or They can try to put this to rest, and he can start working with them on the side, doing other stuff. The problem is he's got to get Trump to trust him again, and I don't know if that's possible. I really don't. This crash out was pretty huge. I mean, when you go to the extent he went through and said the things he said about Trump, Trump is a millionaire / billionaire himself. He's not going to tolerate the disrespect. Now you have two billionaires fighting it out that won't tolerate disrespect. I don't see this ending well. A lot of the cuts that are going to happen if the bill goes through, the one big beautiful bill, if that goes through, the cuts that are going to happen on the EV side, it's a good thing. It puts EVs at a level playing field to gas vehicles, meaning that whatever advantage they had in the EVs is going to be gone because the tax credits are going to be gone, and they're going to have to suffer a tax for using the roads, something that they've been getting away with for a while now. So this will be good to see how this all plays out. I'm really hoping that this goes through on that fact alone, because it puts EVs on a level playing field. They're no longer getting government favored positions. They were getting government favor before that. I've got 10 of you guys in here. Make sure you guys hit that like button. Let's see what we got for chats. Had an interesting repair I had to do last week. Did a front steering and suspension on an 03 Suburban. Afterwards, had no spark anywhere. It lost ground. Oh, yeah. Yep. And on an 03 Suburban, there's actually a ground wire that sits right behind the cab mount on that vehicle. And if that cab mount, if the ground that's on that cab mount corrodes too much, it won't get proper ground. So that is one spot to check. But yeah, if you have bad grounds, you're going to be chasing that one, because you got to find out where all the grounds are. And sometimes the suspension stuff isn't really super complicated, but it can also pose problems if it's all rusted up. I was cranking over with no spark, had to add ground to get it to go. Not sure where I bumped it. Again, I'm thinking if you did suspension and you were on the driver's side, it's probably going to be right up underneath. There is a wire that comes around that shield behind the wheel. There's a shield in there. There's a ground wire that runs down underneath and connects right to the cab mount under the driver's side. That's one spot. The other one could be the engine ground. I believe there's a ground strap that goes across the engine on both sides. One side for sure, but it might be on both sides. So you might have bumped it there. I think they expected the company to bounce back easy, and they just wanted to get their hands on stock a bit cheaper. APM says, I think EVs are good for certain things, like indoor go-karts. Yeah. Like I said, EVs are only for people that live in big cities and don't travel very far. If you ever road trip, it's a bad thing. So, that being said, you guys know how I feel about EVs here. The rust may have finally gotten bad enough for there to be no connection anymore, correct? That's more than likely what happened. Go through and check all of the grounds. I wish I had my 02 Sierra here and I could locate all the grounds and show you on camera. But one of the grounds I know is underneath that cab mount on the driver's side. The other ones are on the back of the engine. And the other one, I believe, comes down from the battery and connects somewhere along the frame. So that might be another one you need to check out. Jay, EV for indoor go-karts. It's the only time I could actually tolerate it, but still, they're not gonna do what I want them to do, so still not fun. So 12 of you guys in here, make sure you guys hit that like button. Hit the subscribe. Guys, we do have this every Sunday at 1 p.m. I'm only mentioning this because some of you guys are in here for the first time. We usually do kind of a fun part here where I interact with chat and we do stuff as we do the repair, then I do the news, then we do some fun stuff to wrap it up. But yeah, we're talking right now about the EV stuff. There is a charging station about 20 minutes away from me. It has been there for 2 years, and I have seen it used less than a dozen times. That's because EVs are not as popular as everyone keeps saying they are. I hate that fact. I hate the fact that everyone is claiming that EVs are the way of the future. They're not. The problem is that they tried to piggyback off of a power grid that's already strained. If they were able to make themselves sufficient, it would have been a whole nother deal. They didn't. I said that 3 years ago or more. It might even be more by now. Roughly 2 years. I am not exactly sure when or why they put it in. It's at a Meyer. And the fact that I know how that's spelt and why I was able to say that means I'm very familiar with Michigan. Most people would have butchered that one. Kelly says, hello from Belize. Good to have you in here. I like having people from overseas. It's nice to see you guys chat in. Sometimes you guys give interesting opinions and can share different things that happen in an area that we don't get to see. So it's always interesting to talk to people from overseas. So you guys hit that like button. This is why I drive gas trucks and cars. Yeah, honestly, guys, and especially with what's going on right now, I got to bring this up. With what Trump's doing, he's basically ensuring that gas vehicles will be around for a long time. Let's go ahead and get into a news topic that I did talk about, but let's go ahead and touch on this again. And I know this is important to Jay because I've had conversations with him, not even filming. We've been chatting a little bit on that. So the California mandate for EVs got swatted by the Senate. They got shut down. They were told, you can't force people to go EV. We don't know the direction California is going to take yet, or if they're going to try to backdoor that into a different bill. They very well could, so Jay still needs to watch out and kind of keep an ear on what's going on there. But as far as the rest of the country, they can't. California can't force everyone to do what they're doing. And that's what the Senate basically told them. So the EV mandate is being shut down as we speak, nationwide. APM, there are a few people around me that own EVs. I don't like them personally. I do think the Rivian looks way better than the Cyberpunk. Yeah. If it was gas engine hybrid or hydrogen, I would consider it. No, you said it right before. It's a Cyberpunk. That's what it is. But yeah, what's going to happen though, we're going to be playing around with this EV stuff for a while yet, guys. We're not going to see a complete removal of it in the marketplace. At some point, they're gonna try to find a way for the vehicles to generate electricity themselves. This is where it's going to push though. The energy companies are gonna try to shut this down. Because it doesn't matter what happens, they want their money. Meaning the government wants their tax money, the people producing gasoline want their money, and the people producing electricity are gonna want their money. Meaning that the chances of us seeing a self-generating electric vehicle probably won't happen. By the time that they invent it, it's going to get squashed. The patents are going to get bought up and they're not going to be able to produce them. That's what's going to happen. It's happened before. What most people don't know is GM already produced a hybrid, hydrogen-powered vehicle. Already produced it. It was made almost a decade ago. We're talking during the Obama years. They produced it. This gets into cash for clunkers thing though. So again, if you guys want to see a cash for clunkers, you guys want me to do a special, make sure you guys leave the notes down in the chat or leave a message in the live chat. Cash for clunkers would really explain exactly what happened there. GM already had a hydrogen powered vehicle. That's why I tell you, anytime that something's going to be super cheap and not have a whole bunch of added hidden costs to it that they're using to power our government, tax dollars, stuff like that, you're not going to see that vehicle get released. Jay says I have the same few people around me that have EVs. Yeah, it's just, I don't see a benefit to the EV side at all. I really don't, guys. Sure you guys are hitting that like button. We're a little over 50% engagement. That's good. APM says at 10K plus cars on the road around me, there are probably 6 to 10 EVs. Yes, and see that's what I was talking about. EVs are not as popular as everyone says. I'm gonna say it. They're not as popular as everyone thinks they are. The reason why is people are realizing what the hidden cost of owning these EVs are. The hidden cost is when the batteries go bad, that battery is gonna cost you almost 30K. At least 30K. Could even be more than that by now. I know 2-3 years ago, to replace an EV battery, you were about 27 to almost 30K. Depending on the battery, it even went up to 35. So I'm sure it's more by now. Jay says a few EVs had thousands and hundreds of gas cars in my location. Yeah, but I'm going to push back on you a little bit, Jay, because you're in California. That's woke central. Of course there's going to be EVs. And there's going to be a lot of EVs in there. And especially after the crap they were pulling and trying to mandate EVs on everyone, you're EV capital central. I mean, they despise gas engines like there's no tomorrow. They have drank too much of the Kool-Aid. That's exactly what it is. And there's a reason why the tax dollars suck so bad when it comes to their gas side of stuff, because they're trying to push it out. They're trying to tax it out. California does this. State I live in does this. When they don't want something, they tax it out of you. And then they try to give tax breaks, but the problem is the new system that Trump's putting in will not allow that. So it'll be very interesting to see. Yeah, this is what we've got, and with two billionaires fighting it out back and back, back and forth in the media, this is going to create a whole bunch of problems. The biggest problem is if they don't get this one big beautiful bill passed, what's going to happen is our taxes are going to go up because there was too much that was put against it, that if they don't get some of it taken out through the bill, we're going to wind up eating that cost. So the bill does get rid of that. One of the big arguments you guys are going to hear is that this bill raises our debt limit. We also have to look at what's in that bill. That bill contains tax relief for the middle class, meaning that they're not going to make as much money. And the majority of America, I don't care what anyone says, the majority of America are not celebrities, are not stars, are not people that earn over $500,000 a year. We're not. The majority of America is middle class. And you're taxing the heart and soul out of us to the point that we can't buy houses, we can't buy new cars, we can't survive without finding cheaper ways of living. This is why, if it doesn't pass, middle class is SOL. We're going to take too big of a hit, and it's going to crush us. Trump knows it. He sees it. He's trying to get it to go away. By giving the tax cuts, he can hopefully flood that money back into our economy, meaning that when people couldn't pay their bills and can't buy houses, if he can get it to where they don't pay tax on their overtime, don't pay tax on their tips, that will free up the money to be able to buy these houses, be able to buy things in the market. It's the way that this works. And when people don't understand the flow of things, that's when we run into problems. Once we understand how this system flows and what we're supposed to do, you can move differently. You can think differently. You can look at everything differently. But in order to do that, you need to step outside of the small little mindset that you're in from the worldview that you have. You have to look outside of your own worldview. Yes, we all have to live in the world, but we also have to understand that there is a way that things work. And when we fight them, it's not going to work. If the whole world switched to EVs, it would actually be a bad thing. We need a certain amount of carbon dioxide. Don't care what the environmentalists say. Fudge it, I'm going to get into it. Fuck it, let's do it. So, what do plants use to grow? Carbon dioxide. So carbon dioxide is not the enemy here. This is something that a lot of EV people absolutely hate when I bring this up. Carbon dioxide isn't bad. Plants use carbon dioxide to grow our crops, to grow trees, to grow grass. Plants use carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is not the problem. The problem is carbon monoxide. That is deadly to everything. Plants, people, everything. Carbon monoxide is the problem, not the carbon dioxide. That's why if you have good catalytic converters in newer cars, you can run them in a closed garage all day. Literally all day. Will not hurt you. But those catalytic converters need to be new. If they're not new and they're more than 10 years old, they're used up. If they're used up, they're not going to filter. What hurts you is the carbon monoxide. That's the problem in the gas engines. It's the carbon monoxide, not the carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide, plants use it, other things use it. It isn't going to overtake our planet like they want to say. I've already done the homework on this. I searched it up and down, because I knew I was going to be a big gas car guy. And if I wanted to be able to defend my points and be able to defend my talking points, I needed to know all this. I needed to know where the flaw was, how I could hit back, how I could push back on it. Yep. APM, you're right. So many people mix that up. They mix up the difference between carbon monoxide and carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is one of the most abundant gases on our planet. Plants use it as food. And what do plants give off after they've created the food? Oxygen. They don't want to tell you that. I'm sure for that reason alone, I'm going to get smacked. So, guys, if you haven't liked the button, hit that like button. Hit it now. Here we go. Plants eat carbon dioxide. They give off oxygen, which is what we breathe. You kill off the carbon dioxide that's going into our atmosphere now, and you create a runaway train. What happens is that train runs away, and you won't create enough oxygen. It's a very delicate system. That system is created that everything flows together. Our grandparents were much smarter than what we are today, and they didn't have near the technology. So anytime somebody with EV hits you back going, well, gas vehicles are bad for the environment. False. They're good for the environment. They give carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is used by plants to make oxygen. That oxygen is what we breathe. You take away the carbon dioxide, they won't produce the oxygen. They'll starve, meaning more plants will die. And if you care about the environment, you're going to care about the plants dying. Me personally, I'm a meat eater. But the things I eat meat or eat grass, so I do have to care about it a little bit. There you go. Yep, absolutely. They need CO2, carbon dioxide. J and APM are absolutely correct. They eat carbon dioxide. Gas cars are greater than EVs. Darn right they are. Gas is good for the environment when it's contained. The fumes off of gas are not good. I will say that. The fumes off of gasoline is not good. There's a reason why they did the whole evap systems for gasoline cars. It's no different than putting Freon in the air when it comes to that. But here's where the things start to split and why people get confused. So, even though the gasoline fumes are bad for the environment, created systems contain those fumes. When the systems are running correct, we don't have a problem. When people don't do the maintenance and they ignore the check engine lights, they let things go, that's why we get to where we are today. The problem is too many people get all touchy-feely about all this stuff. They think they got the answers without doing the homework. They don't know the difference between carbon dioxide and carbon monoxide. They don't know the difference between a vehicle that has newer style catalytic converters and ones that were made back in the 70s. They don't understand that there's a shelf life to catalytic converters in order to maintain that. I will put a $1,000 bet right now that this vehicle and this one here produce less emissions than any EV that's created. Because if you look at how EVs are created, how do they make them? Well, they need a battery, okay? They need metal, okay? What do we have to do in order to make those things? We need oil. We need metal. Where do we get the metal? How do we get it out of the ground? How do we get it out of the ground? We dig it out. When we dig that out of the ground, what are we using to dig it out of the ground? We're using big tractors that use gallons of diesel an hour. They use a ton of oil to keep those machines working. The offset for that alone makes EVs not practical. Now they might say, well, you still have to do the same thing for for a gas engine vehicle. Here's the difference. What are we needing for the EV side? We need platinum. We need, got to get the minerals right here because they're going to run me up the hill if I don't. We need cobalt. The platinum and the cobalt are huge when it comes to the batteries. Those are two very precious minerals that they need to be able to hold the charge. This is what they're digging for when they do it. It is so damaging to our planet that they don't let people do it here in the US. Ask yourself that. Ask yourself why. Ask yourself, why do they let third world countries dig everything up for these precious minerals and they won't let you do it in the US? It's because of how damaging it is. It's something that our planet can't come back from because they got to dig very deep into the earth. These mines that they're digging are miles deep. Miles. Strip mining the earth to get these minerals out. And our planet only has so much of it. Our planet doesn't reproduce these minerals that they're putting in these batteries. It doesn't remake these. But you know what our planet does remake? Oil. There has been oil taps that they've tapped into 100 years ago that they thought ran out. They've gone back and opened them up and found out that they were full. Because our planet generates enough pressure to create the oil within it. That's why oil doesn't run out. I don't want to tell you that either. I don't want to tell you that either. Yeah, I am so getting punished on this one. I'm sure they've already killed the push out on the stream. I went way hard there, guys. I went very hard there. Yeah, I went pretty hard. All right, let's read some of these chats. Question about evap, kinda. My truck almost wants to, I'm gonna guess vapor lock itself. Yep, you did that in the next message down below. Vapor lock itself. Maybe I'm just strong enough to twist the cap. But if I don't turn my cap loose, it sucks in air like crazy for a second. Okay, so there is a purge on it. It is called a vent purge solenoid. Look for that vent purge solenoid and replace it. What's happening is the vent purge is plugged, and because it's plugged, it keeps that suction going to where it's not able to actually purge. So it's just building vacuum pressure. If you let that go long enough, it'll actually suck your gas tank in on itself. It'll just suck the gas tank in. So check the vent purge and replace that. He says, when I shut it off to get gas, unsure if I should leave it alone or not because it runs fine and no check engine light. The light isn't burned out either. LOL. We need light bulbs in our homes at least as long as the light's on the dash of an older vehicle. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, when it comes down to it, we can't be piggybacking our cars off of our power grid. It's a stupid idea. What it does is it creates a situation. You know, I've already went hard. What the hell? You guys hit that like button. You guys aren't going to get this kind of content anywhere else. I do this on Sunday. Guys, hit the like button. Show the love and show the support. That's all I ask. So, when you rely on a single source for everything, your cars, your homes, everything, what happens is all it takes is one infrastructure hit to shut it all down. Everything. If they hit the power grid and we were all driving EVs, we're all screwed. Straight up. We're done. We're cooked. Why are we cooked? Can't get anywhere. Can't get food. Can't do anything. We're not going to have heat in our house. We're not going to have electricity in our house. And we're not going to be able to go anywhere in our cars. At least if you had a gas car, guess what? You go out and start your gas car. Get heat in your car. Get AC in your car. You can go to the gas station and get gas for your car. Sucks living out of your car, but you can do it in an emergency. You can't do it if everything's EV. This is what pissed me off to no end when it came to that. When they started pushing the EV, that was the first thing I called out. Because I knew what was going to happen. The woke climate people were just going to go ballistic. And when they did, they wanted to push this and make it to where all they had to do was shut down our electric. And we would have all been done. So, all right, we got a few more chats here I'm going to read. Where are we at? Kelly asked, did you finish the bumper assembly on the Malibu last week? Sorry, I missed it. Kelly, no, actually we finished the bumper assembly like 2 weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago. We got this Audi in as the project. We did an oil change on it last week, a full oil change service. I ran into problems. So when I was doing the oil change, what happened was the oil plug got stripped out. Luckily, I got it loose and I was able to drain the oil, but I had to go buy a brand new oil plug. I bought one that had a hex head bolt on it rather than the torque bit. It had a torque bit one in it because it's an Audi. Audis love their torque bits. They also love those triple squares that you guys saw today. That being said, after the service, after the oil change, after putting the new filters in it, getting everything done on it, we got that done and we put the new belts on it. That was today's project. Next week, maybe oil change for the supercharger, or we're going to put the shields on it and possibly give this back to the customer. I got to call him after we get done with this stream and figure out what he wants to do. So I do need to kind of know where he's at mentally on what he wants to put into the car. I know he wants the car to be very reliable because he drives about an hour when he needs to go up for work, because he works about an hour away. So he does travel a lot with it. But to answer your question, Kelly, yes, the bumper's done. We did that about 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. We put that bumper on it. I finished up that project. I've been driving the car the whole time. I'm kind of considering possibly changing up the whole fleet, to be honest with you guys. I'm considering selling the Malibu. I'm considering selling the Toyota. And I'm considering selling Crimson Vortec. And with those three gone, I'm considering getting one pickup and one sports car. Something I'm thinking about for the future. Nothing's been set in stone. I have not even made any moves. Just something I'm mowing around and trying to figure out if it even is practical to do. Jay said, yep, that was a few weeks ago. Yep. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. I'm trying to do my streams early enough that it brings you guys notifications on what I'm doing. So, mods, if you guys are getting notifications, let me know. So if you guys are getting notifications ahead of time for this stream, let me know. Yeah, Jay, no food, no heat. Yeah, basically. If everything goes electric, you're not getting anything. That's why putting cars on our electric grid is the dumbest idea. It's beyond stupid. Jay also says you're not going to get electricity also if we all switch to EVs. Yeah, because the power grid can't handle it. It'll just shut everything down. Daniel says, torque wrench? What are you referring to that? What are you referring to that, Daniel? And a dune buggy. Dune buggies can be fun. They suck to work on though. They only suck to work on because you're constantly breaking them. Jay, probably Ford or Chevy is what I would recommend. Just don't get an eco boom. Yeah, don't stay away from the eco booms. Stay away from the 6.2s in the GMs. Guys, the 6.2 is done. It's cooked. GM will not continue building the 6.2. Cam and lifter failure issues, crankshaft issues. The 6.2, don't buy them. There's actually a stop sale on them. That stop sale is all the way from the manufacturer down to the dealerships. They cannot sell 6.2s. They are to not be sold. They need to be serviced, and they need to figure out if they're going to fall for the recall or qualify for the recall in order to perform it. So don't buy 6.2s, which is pretty much every large gas engine in every HD pickup. That's GM. So if you guys have one, get it into the dealer and have them perform the services. Get the stuff fixed. Your warranties on the bottom side of the engine is only good to 10-year, 150K. The transmission issues are 15 years, 150K. So make sure you get them in and get those recalls handled. APM says build a sport truck. You know, I could probably even do that with the Toyota. It's a pre-runner. It wouldn't take much for me to just turn that into a project where we either bolt a supercharger or put turbos on it. Might have to rebuild the engine, but yeah. APM like a 700 horsepower Escalade or something in that frame. Yeah, I mean, the bigger frames would give us a lot more options and we'd have a lot more space to play around with. So I could consider something like that maybe. Or at least get something that's decent enough to put the bolt-ons on it and then show you guys tuning and how we get all that figured out. That would be fun. That might be something, if we can get the channel to take off to where I'm able to make enough to do a project like that, I would love to do one. Because I would get in touch with the dyno shop, we'd build it outright. But yeah, I definitely got to get the channel built up more. I got to be making enough off the channel to be able to do a build like that. Just get something with a 6.0. Yeah, the older 6.0s are good. The problem is most of it's going to have body rust, especially if you're getting it from the Midwest. You're going to have problems with body rust on a 6.0. But yeah, after the 6.0, it went downhill for them on their big blocks. It was a bad thing. Jay, how do people even work on sport trucks? Depends. Depends on what you do to it. Some sport trucks they're basically two-wheel drive trucks that they just put a ton of horsepower to it, which are not hard to do. And then they play around with the suspension a little bit to get the handling back. So, yeah. Jay says, and maintain with spending like 20K to build in the first place. Yeah, see, that's the problem with some of those sport trucks. Yeah, you spend a ton of money to build them. So, I mean, it's got to be something you love. It's got to be something you don't want to get rid of. It's got to be something that you want to put your time and energy into it, because once you invest into it, you're not getting rid of it. So that's the trade-off. If we were to do a supercharger or turbo on the Silver Swine, I would never get rid of it. The amount of money I would stick into that truck to do that, nobody could give me enough to get rid of it. And I just looked up the value. The truck's worth probably about 16 grand for an 04 with 40,000 miles. So, and honestly, I would take and sell that to get a sports car, because sports car gives me a lot more range on performance parts. A sport truck, oftentimes you got to do like a full motor swap. You got to change out your wire harnessing. You got to do a bunch of crazy stuff to even get to the sports car level. Then you have to go beyond that to even compete with the sports cars. So it's kind of my thoughts. I mean, getting a truck and then putting a lift in it, that would be a good project too. You know, go that route. All right, guys, we've gone 3 hours already. Awesome, awesome. Hit the mark. Project actually went pretty well today. There's one more thing I want to do, which is I want to start this up. So we're going to go ahead and start that up now, and then I'll probably wrap things up with you guys here shortly in a bit.
So what we listen for is any noise coming out of that drive belt system. Anything that sounds like there's a drag. What we're also doing is looking at our pulleys, making sure that they're not rubbing, make sure the belts aren't doing anything weird. This is part of the last step of the check. You have to check this. Everything should be running smooth, nothing should be grinding, and we shouldn't start seeing marks in belts. If we see any of that, we need to shut it down. All right, everything looks really good. I can tell you that the belt position looks a little different. So now that we've replaced some of these pulleys and tensioners, what we're noticing is the belt is actually walking away or walking more in towards the tensioners. So before it was pushing away from the tensioner, now it's pulling closer to the tensioner. This means that our repair was successful, meaning that things are lined up right and we're not in a spot where we can lose the belt. The last thing we want is that belt to slide off. And when it's pushing away from a tensioner, more than likely it could come off. So the other thing I was looking at is how much does the belt wobble as it's going. These cars have a little bit of belt wobble. There's not much we can do about that. But what we can do is make sure that all of our pulleys are lined up and that there's nothing weird going on. Once we've verified that, really this repair is done. It's a success, meaning we've finished this repair. And yeah, I see everything lined up really nice. Everything is tight. Everything is solid. The only thing I got to do is put those bolts back into the coolant lines.
But my reason for not putting those bolts back in before I started it, because I wanted to verify that the belts were straight. So in today's repair, what we did is we did some belt tensioners. We do have some old belts that we can now save for emergencies if they become stranded for any reason or something goes wrong. They have spare belts. We're not going to reuse the pulleys. Those are going to get thrown away and recycled. And when it comes to the rest of the vehicle, this repair was 100% success. We've already checked that everything is lined up and everything's in good place. So, yeah, Daniel, I don't know what you are referring to about the size. Doesn't make sense. So, all right, guys. I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up here, guys. This has been an awesome live stream. Thank you guys for tuning in today. This has been an awesome day. We're going to be back next week. We're either going to be finishing up this project. We're going to get started on Crimson Vortec. I got to find out what the customer wants. I would like to do one more video on this. So even if they do take this, I might bring it back for one more video and I'll talk about what's going on with the shields. there was something really bad that happened with this car. Because this has gone to quick change oil places, there is a situation where the shields were not reinstalled properly and missing hardware. I would like to do a video for you guys showing you guys how to fix that. So that may be next week's video. We may do the supercharger oil depending on what customer says, or we might be getting into Crimson Vortec. So guys, thank you so much for today's live stream. It's been awesome. We've talked about a lot. Probably did some things that are going to get me in trouble later on, but hey, it was fun anyway. That being said, guys, make sure you guys hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, ring that notification bell so you get notified when we go live, which is every Sunday at 1 p.m. Central.